Good morning, welcome. I'm Danny Lichtenfeld, Director of the Brattleboro Museum and Art Center. So grateful to all of you for coming out this morning in spite of the first little hint of winter. Scared many other people away, but you all, true Vermonters, thanks for being here. Especially like to thank those of you who traveled from up north and into the teeth of this fierce storm. Josh and Ryan and others of you, thank you for being here. What we're going to share with you this morning is a vision for the future of this museum, the town of Brattleboro, and the surrounding region that has been gestating for 8 years. In January 2011, the museum board and staff and several dozen community members and local officials gathered to ask ourselves the question, what more can BMAC do to serve our community and attract more visitors to Brattleboro? Many ideas emerged that day and in the discussions that followed, and many of them pointed to a need for the museum to have more space. We love this building. Brattleboro's historic Union Station, built in 1915, which the museum has occupied for nearly 50 years, and which we hope to occupy for at least 50 more. But as we considered the ways in which we might unlock the full potential of what this museum can be, and what we can do for our town and the communities we serve, we kept coming back to the need for more space, including space that was designed not only for early 20th century train passengers, but for 21st century art and museum goers. So as the years went on, we considered various options for expanding. And when the opportunity arose in 2015 for the museum to potentially acquire the property at 11 Arch Street alongside the Whetstone Brook, we hired Stevens and Miskovich to help us determine whether that acquisition made sense given our needs and the redevelopment potential of that site. Working with Bob Stevens and his excellent team, it soon became clear that we could be part of something much bigger and more impactful than just an expanded and improved Brattleboro Museum and Art Center. Thanks to Bob, we came to see that we had an opportunity to address Brattleboro's need for more downtown housing, an opportunity to turn a neglected property in the heart of downtown at the foot of Main Street into an inspiring gateway to Vermont and welcome to Brattleboro, and an opportunity to provide access for residents and visitors alike to a stunning natural feature that any town would love to have in its midst, that cascading waterfall where the Whetstone Brook meets the Connecticut River, which is currently all but impossible to take in and enjoy. So our thinking and our ambitions expanded. We shared our thoughts with community members and town officials to see if others thought our ideas were as great as we thought they were. And we did a fundraising feasibility study to gauge whether we might have any chance of pulling off what we were contemplating. The responses we got were overwhelmingly favorable. And we had acquired the property at 11 Arch Street already, so then we acquired the adjacent property on Main Street and undertook the process of conceptual design, which is what we can finally share with you today. In partnership with M&S Development, which is as many of you know, a development consultant firm led by Bob Stevens that specializes in downtown revitalization and community-enabled development. Along with M&S, we have developed plans to build a beautiful new 55,000 square foot building on Main Street and alongside the Whetstone Brook, containing state-of-the-art new museum galleries and classrooms at street level and 2 floors below, with 24 apartments overlooking the Connecticut River on the floors above. There would be a cafe with outdoor seating, a rooftop sculpture garden, broad terraces and a footbridge over the brook that will finally allow the public at long last to get up close and personal with that waterfall. Although you can't quite see it in the renderings we've provided, our plans even include a kayak launch, so you can get right out on the water from the heart of downtown. Who knows, I might even commute from my house in East Putney down to our new building. That new building and a new entrance foyer that's planned for the front of this building have been designed by Schwartz Architects of Boston in collaboration with Stevens and Miskovich. We selected Schwartz from among nearly 30 firms from around the country who expressed interest in working on this project. We asked them to design a bold 21st century building that says "Welcome to Brattleboro," while at the same time honoring and harmonizing with the town's historic streetscape. We asked for a design that is open and welcoming, transparent and inviting, where art is visible from the street and can be enjoyed 24 hours a day, even by those who are just passing by and are too busy to come into the museum. And of course, we asked them to make the most of the brook and the waterfall. We couldn't be more pleased with the work they've done, and I just want to take a moment to acknowledge them. Warren Schwartz and John Traficante, the architects from Schwartz are here. So what will this mean for our museum? Well, the galleries in the new building are going to eliminate constraints that currently limit the scope and variety of art that we can bring to Brattleboro. They will allow us to present cutting-edge, immersive, interactive art exhibits on a regular basis, as well as exhibits that require special technology, security, and climate control. The new building contains a 2,500 square foot education wing, which is something we desperately need because our extensive education programs are bursting at the seams. During the past school year, more than 1,200 K-6 students visited the museum on school field trips, and hundreds more took part in workshops, classes, and special events. We're often asked if we offer after-school programs or summer camps or art history and appreciation classes for adults, which we would love to do, but we simply haven't had the space. Our new building will change all that. And when we move our rotating exhibits and education programs into the new building, we will have an opportunity to do something here in Union Station that we've dreamt about for years. We're going to transform this gallery and the small satellite galleries around it into a showcase of the art of Wolf Kahn and Emily Mason, renowned artists with international followings who have divided their time between New York and Brattleboro for the past 51 years. We believe there should be a place the public can go any given day of the year to experience the artwork of these two extraordinary painters. And there's no question that place should be right here in Brattleboro, given Wolf and Emily's long-standing involvement in our community. Just as the Farnsworth Museum in Maine has a special association with the Wyeths, and Mass MoCA's identity is shaped by its long-term installations of artwork by Saul LeWitt and James Turrell, this museum is going to become the singular destination in the world for people seeking to experience the artwork of Wolf Kahn and Emily Mason. This project is going to transform BMAC from a hidden gem into one of America's most vibrant regional museums, reinforcing and strengthening a Western New England arts corridor that extends from southern Connecticut up through the Berkshires into southern Vermont and north to the excellent art museums of the Upper Valley. Our current projection, based on research we've done into the results of other New England museum expansion projects, is that our annual attendance will more than double, from 16,000 visitors today to between 30 and 40,000 in the future. Most importantly, this project will provide opportunities for people from all walks of life to discover art as a means of expression, understanding, and inspiration. And it will encourage enduring economic vitality in Brattleboro and the wider region. It's been a long time since the ideas that you see before you on these pictures and in the packets first began percolating. And I just want to take the moment to extend my deepest thanks to the board and staff of the museum, past and present, for allowing these ideas the time and space they apparently needed to fully develop. And I especially want to thank Bob Stevens, who's right here next to me, an inspiring partner, someone so deeply committed to community development, without whom we most definitely would not be here sharing this bold vision for Brattleboro's future. So thank you, Bob, and why don't you come up and get me to stop talking. And the last thing I'm going to mention before I turn the mic over to Bob is that after we've had a chance to hear from our other speakers, we'll have time for you to ask questions. I'll be happy to answer them to the best of my ability, including the questions I'm sure you have about funding and timing and where we are in the process of turning this vision into a reality. Thank you again for being here.
Thank you, Danny. I have to say it's been an honor for us to work with the museum over the last almost 4 years now of studying and looking at this. From the very beginning, the museum was interested not only in becoming this significant regional museum and arts center, but really building part of community for here. And I want to speak a little more to that, of what at least I think it means for the town of Brattleboro for a project of this scale and scope. So as Danny said, we've partnered with the museum. We're working on trying to put 24 housing units above the museum. It could have just been a museum building on that site, but the housing units will be a combination of housing for all incomes. There will probably be some number of condominiums out of that. It's a beautiful site to sit on top of the museum and look out over the Connecticut River and down the river for that. And we know there's a large demand for more people to be live and work in the downtown. But the visitors, the increase in visitorship, the people who live down there, those are inputs into this sort of downtown economy. And this is a sort of a component of building a great town. We already have a great town in Brattleboro, but it struggles. You know, it's a tough place to make a living. It's a tough place for people to keep their doors open. And one of the ways that that's successful is getting more people to come to town, to stay at the Latches, to eat in the restaurants, for people to live downtown and spend their money on the street. And we've done some preliminary analysis. We think it's close to $16 million a year that's going to have an annual impact into this regional economy from this project alone. That is real, that's significant. That's going to play itself out in jobs and in vibrancy. And again, one thing that we like to point out, who spends a lot of time thinking about economic development, you know, your downtown is key to the rest of your regional economy, because who wants to come, move, work outside of downtown if the downtown's not vibrant? And so this is, I think, a huge investment, and really thankful that right from the beginning, the museum realized how significant this was to be part of the community, to build that and have those kinds of impacts. It's a big project. It's one that we've been happy to be part of and contribute. And we're looking forward to not only announcing this, but sort of getting the support of the rest of the community as this goes into the next phase. We still have a ways to go, as you might find. I think with that, other than questions later, I'm going to turn it over to Becca, our senator, our favorite senator.
Good morning. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Becca Ballant, and I'm one of 2 senators from Windham County. And I see a couple other legislators in the room. I see Molly Burke back here. Thank you, Molly, for being here. Kornheiser here. Thank you. And I also just want to acknowledge all of the past and current select board members. It really is such a hard and often thankless job. So if you've served on the select board or are currently serving, just please take a moment for us to thank you for that service. So when I got up this morning, I said to my wife, I want to wear a color, befitting of this occasion. So I only pulled out the red dresses. And I'm so delighted to see that Bob's also wearing red. So I'm here as your state senator. I am here representing Windham County. I'm also here as the Senate Majority Leader and as a longtime member of the Economic Development Committee in the Senate. But I'm also here as a community member. My family lives right up on South Main Street, and my children have played on what we call the flying lawn out here for many years. This is truly our neighborhood. And I'm so pleased to be here to really kick off such an exciting project, a project that has such a great vision for the downtown and can be an incredible asset to this entire region, because we are a region of creatives, musicians and artists and dancers and poets and craftsmen and craftswomen. And I believe the creativity bubbles up from this incredible landscape. And it comes to rest here because we try to be wholehearted. And we have a curiosity and a generosity of spirit. And this project really speaks to that creative spirit. It calls to those of us who see possibility and promise where others might only see obstacles and impediments, and perhaps even despair. Art gives us the opportunity to see through a different lens, to grab hold of a different framework. And this big, bold project is a stunning statement. We believe in this community. We cherish its creativity. And we are able to see a beautiful new vision for the place that we so lovingly call Malfunction Junction. And it's art that enables us to do this. And art has been a touchstone for me throughout my life. My sister is a curator for the National Trust for Historic Preservation. She works at Chesterwood, which is the home of Daniel Chester French, who carved the Lincoln Memorial. And my brother is a silversmith and a goldsmith. He makes beautiful wearable art. And my children love the River Gallery Art School right across the street. And my wife has performed in the parking lot out here for NECA in the aerial silks. And as for me, my childhood and teen years were spent making a lot of art. I drew for hours and made prints, and I actually thought that I was going to have a life in art. But in high school, I gravitated more to the performing arts, and here I am in politics. But my deep love and appreciation of the visual art remained. So many of you already know this, but I want to make it explicit. When art is accessible, it transforms lives. Whether it's the first time you see an old master, or the first time a new work of art hits you in the gut, each of us has a story when we recall an encounter with art that changed the way we thought about the world or ourselves. And it is the sum of these encounters collectively that bring us together as a community, that teach us that we are more complex and more interesting than merely our political affiliations or our prejudice or our day jobs. And that's what's so exciting to me about this project. It offers the opportunity to make BMAC's work that much more immediately available to everyone. Everyone who crosses the Whetstone on their way to and from our downtown. It offers us this magnificent chance to build and expand the creative strands of our community and to strengthen them with new partnerships and new dynamic networks. And I cannot wait for this vision to take shape, not just for me, but for my family, for my neighborhood, and for my community. And I hope that we will all work as hard as we can to make this extraordinary, this hopeful vision a reality. Thank you.
state delegation and national delegation. Thank you, Becca. We're so honored to have Josh Hanford here. Josh is the Commissioner of Housing and Community Development for the state, and simply by being here, says something about the impacts of this project extending beyond the realm of the arts and into housing and community development. And that means a lot to all of us. And so Josh, thank you for being here, and I know you have a few words. Thank you.
Thanks for inviting me. This is truly exciting. You know, one of the best parts about this job is getting out and seeing all the cool things happening in Vermont, and this is definitely one of them. And Brattleboro has a lot of these going on over the last few years. I think of Brattleboro as a resilient community. I was listing all the projects that I've seen Brattleboro sort of bounce back from over the years. You know, you had the fire at the Whetstone Block. What did you do there? Come back with housing. The Latches Theater. After Irene, there was tremendous energy and recovery. The Brooks House, of course. And this just follows in that same theme that Brattleboro is truly a resilient community that gets it, is always looking forward, is progressive. And a lot of that starts, of course, with the local leadership. You've already seen a lot of it, you know, Senator Ballot, the representatives here, but Peter and Patrick, all the select board members, Adam out there from the RDC, Josh Davis from the Groundworks Collaborative. This is a community that cares about everyone and respects everyone's place in this community. And that goes a long ways. And this project is exciting for a number of reasons, in my view. You know, the downtowns that we love and cherish, they're in need of some help. You have a beautiful, but it constantly needs to reinvent itself. You need to make your projects, your community, your downtown an attraction. You know, to get people to visit and stay. You know, you can buy it cheaper online, you can get it delivered to your house, you don't have to worry about parking. And so what gets people out, things like this project, you need to create that sense of urgency to get downtown and experience it. And this is just another tremendous example of Brattleboro doing that. Combining it with housing, you know, that's, you know, music to my ears. There's a housing shortage, you know, no one's doesn't know that in Vermont. But this creative approach of creating such a you know, vibrant, fun place to be and have housing upstairs with recreation, you know, kayak path, a walking bridge is just going to be, you know, everyone's going to be lining up to be there. And you know, for the museum, for BMAC, to grow and expand and kind of take the next chapter, you know, just shows the support you have here and the tremendous sort of asset that this is to the community. And, you know, whatever you can leverage in the state, the federal resources, I think people will be there to line up and help. Bob and Katie, you know, anything they touch seems to be successful. So I'm really optimistic that this is going to be a wild success in short order. Just to hit on a few more of the things that when I think about Brattleboro is always, you know, striving for, you know, looking forward, thinking about how to reinvent itself. I mean, you know, where arts and food and culture and, you know, respect for different viewpoints come together. You know, I think Brattleboro is one of those communities out of the entire state that I think of first, you know, strolling the heifers and just the openness that this community has for folks really is an asset. And you have that regional hub here in Brattleboro. You talked about it, Bob. You know, this is a rural community. Rural communities are needing to reinvent themselves constantly. And with Brattleboro being a driver of this whole area, everyone can see themselves here, be connected. And I think that's what the success that we're already seeing in Brattleboro and what this is going to bring. I think Brattleboro has become an example in many ways for much of Vermont. You know, certainly the southern tier. Your downtown, even though there might be struggles from day to day and some concerns, is as vibrant as they come, really. And the fact that this community is constantly supporting new initiatives to address its challenges is really that example that I certainly point to in the state. And I'm happy to be part of this, want to help in any way, and really just thank you for the opportunity to come and show our support, and wish you luck, and hope that we can be back for a groundbreaking very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. It's such a pleasure for me to introduce Peter Elwell, our town manager. I just can't say enough about Peter. Brattleboro is so lucky to have Peter as a town manager. And in every matter, large and small, when I need to reach out to his office, Peter and his staff are unfailingly gracious and helpful, and that just means so much. So, Peter.
Thank you. So I want to thank both Josh and Becca for recognizing the work of the select board, which is often thankless, but is very important to the community. And so I'm going to add to that by noting two members of the current board are here today. We have Liz McLaughlin and a third. Daniel's here too. Daniel, I'm so sorry. We have three members. Daniel Quiff, Liz McLaughlin, and Tim Wessel are here, and in the middle of a very busy day that will end up being a very long evening together. They're here to support this exciting unveiling of the dream. Also, Danny spoke to matters large and small, and the town of Brattleboro is still the owner of this building, and so we do often get an opportunity to collaborate on matters that are relatively more small, but today is big. And we're excited about how big it is because of what you've heard already from the other speakers about how many different goals of our community the project represents. So an enormous investment in the downtown, an enormous investment in the economic vitality of the community. Certainly, the leading light for our community culturally for so many years. What other community of 12,000 people is home to a world-class contemporary art museum? We already have that good fortune, and this project is intended to grow that into something even greater. And the fact that it's all happening right here in the downtown. So additional housing and all of this other activity going on right in downtown Brattleboro. Maybe someday we'll be able to say, wow, Function Junction. But there's one other aspect of this for my role this morning and our role in the community as town government, which is there are also rules to be followed. And so I want to make really clear to the community that a project on this scale absolutely has impacts, both wonderful positive impacts like we're all talking about today, and other impacts that carry with them pros and cons. There's very little that ever goes on in a community where 100% of the people can rally around it and say, isn't that great? And so while this is wonderful, there's also some steps to go through to make sure that it happens in a way that complies with local regulations and is otherwise as broadly as possibly viewed as wonderful and positive and good for the community. And so there's been a tremendous amount of communication already between the museum and its representatives and our town planning functions who fill in. Our planning services director is here today. We've had a lot of communication around the formative period of this dream so that what you're seeing today actually represents to a great degree a vision that has been refined already in accordance with the regulations that will have to be met. But there's more work to do, and what we pledge is continuing to work as partners, as we do with anyone who's making such a significant investment in the community, to work through the issues that may arise and make sure that the review process and approval process is as efficient as it can be while still checking all the boxes. And we also want to point out that together with Josh Hanford and his team and the partners at the state of Vermont, there's an opportunity in this project, we think, and the shape of that will be defined in the months ahead, to bring investment through the Community Development Block Grant Program in as part of the financing. This is on a very grand scale, and it's going to need a lot of different contributing parties. And we think that the town as an applicant and the state as the grantors of Community Development Block Grant money, this project is a really good candidate for that because it is both a significant economic development investment and a significant housing investment, and both of those things happening right here in downtown. So we look forward to the continued work ahead, and congratulations on the exciting day today.
Spokespeople, representatives of Senator Leahy's office and Senator Sanders' office had planned to come down this morning and speak as well, and they turned around at different points on 89 because of the weather. But they each sent me a statement that they asked me to read. So I'd like to read this remarks from Diane Derby, who's the field representative for Senator Leahy. On behalf of Senator Leahy, I want to congratulate the Brattleboro Museum and Art Center, M&S Development, and all of the partners and supporters who have worked on this project. It's truly a game changer for downtown Brattleboro, and Senator Leahy's office stands ready and willing to help however we can. I admit that it was hard to envision the scope of this project when Danny first walked me through the site a number of years back, but there was no doubting his enthusiasm. To look at how far it has come in a relatively short time is remarkable. Senator Leahy worked to secure a $200,000 federal grant to clean up the property on the site, and we were excited when the EPA approved that grant in May 2017. In the grand scheme of a $30 million project, it may not seem like a huge amount of money, but it was a critical first step, as the museum noted at the time, to, quote, begin the process of transforming a neglected, contaminated property in the heart of downtown Brattleboro into a valuable community asset. Fast forward to these architectural plans offering us an exciting glimpse of the future of downtown Brattleboro. A beautiful new building, new housing, new galleries, a footbridge, and best of all, the elimination of that confounding intersection. She might be overstating the case a little bit. I've had the good fortune of being a frequent visitor to BMAC over the past decade and accompanying Senator Leahy for the opening of his photo exhibit here a few years back. We know that the Brattleboro Museum and Art Center is so much more than its name might imply. BMAC is truly a community resource. We are fortunate for the vision and leadership that have taken us to this point, and we look forward to what lies ahead. On behalf of Senator Leahy, thank you. Very nice. Diane was really sorry she couldn't make it. She asked me to apologize to everyone. And I also have a brief statement from Senator Bernie Sanders. Congratulations to the Brattleboro Museum and Art Center as you launch this project to ensure the vibrancy of Brattleboro's downtown. I'm resisting the urge to do a Brooklyn accent as I read this, and I'm going to continue resisting. I believe in the power and importance of the arts, which have a unique ability to teach, empower, connect, and challenge us. Art is what life is all about, and I believe it should be available to everyone, regardless of social, economic, or physical constraints. When we invest in Vermont's downtowns, we must not only invest in economic development, but also in the needs of the community. This means thinking creatively about ways to meet local residents' needs for things like open public space, cultural and educational offerings, affordable housing, and local job opportunities. When we make these investments in our people, our downtowns will become the places where people want to live, work, shop, and recreate. With this project, you have a tremendous opportunity to transform downtown Brattleboro for the benefit of generations to come, and I wish you the best of luck. Our final speaker this morning, here representing Congressman Welch, who's busy today, is Brian McLaren. Brian mentioned to me that the last time he was here at the museum was for the inauguration party we had for Governor Shumlin, former Governor Shumlin, which may have been the most packed with humanity that this space has ever been. So that was a great event, and this is a great event, Brian. It's nice to have you back. We hope we'll have you back for many more great events.
Thank you, Danny. Yeah, it looks like I'm 2 for 2. And so, I'm used to sort of batting cleanup in the delegation speaker list, and I don't know what more there is to say. So Danny just told me to tell jokes. It's not true. So I think about this project in the context of a recent VPR survey about rural Vermonters and their opinions about what we can do as a state to make their lives better. And the number one thing, if not the number one thing, the top 2 thing, was to build more vibrant, connected communities. And for reasons big and small, I think we've seen our rural communities hollowed out slowly. And Brattleboro's not immune to that. And so that's really the context with that Peter sees his own work. That our job is supporting Vermonters in rebuilding the core of their communities so they can have a vibrant economy and fulfilling lives. And that's what I see this project doing, and we're happy to be here to support it. BMAC has been the heart and soul, the beating heart of Brattleboro, particularly in the cultural capital, for a very long time. And to ensure Brattleboro stays the vibrant community that's connected, this project is essential. And to Senator Bowden's point, I have vivid memories of the first time I saw a Wolf Kahn painting and how much it struck me that he was a Vermonter and what that said about me as a Vermonter and how it impacted my relationship with that painting. And so the idea of having a dedicated gallery to Wolf Kahn and Emily Mason here in this community is so exciting to me. Thinking about the potential to not only bring tourists, but bring folks my age and younger into Vermont, into the community, to live here, to work here, and to play here. So thank you for letting me be here on behalf of Peter, and we're happy to support that effort.
Thank you, Brian. So you're all invited in a few minutes for sandwiches and salad. And we have some lunch in the center gallery if you'd like to join us. And so with that lingering out there on the near horizon, I'm also going to open up the floor to questions. I think we'd like to use this especially as an opportunity if there are any questions from any of the media representatives here. I'm happy to try to answer them, but then also anyone else who may have questions. Yeah, Dick.
I'm looking at the renderings, I think they're spectacular. And I also want to say that assets in the community are people. And I want to point to you as an asset in our community and what you've done for our community. My question is I was looking at these beautiful renditions and wondering where my beautiful flowers are going to be placed.
Thank you, Dick. David?
I wanted to know what 40,000 projected visitor rate, how does that compare with other museums like MassMocha?
I don't remember off the top of my head what MassMocha's visitors are. We've been looking at a number of other museums in New England that have undertaken expansion projects or relocation, and looking at the percent increase in their visitorship. And so those are some of the numbers that stick in my mind, including the Center for Maine Contemporary Art in Rockland, Maine, which is a fabulous institution, very similar in many ways to Brattleboro Museum and Art Center, and also in a town that has a lot of the same opportunities and challenges as Brattleboro. They recently undertook a project where they built a new building, moved into a new space. A lot of similarities with what we're hoping to do, but different in key ways as well. And their annual visitorship went from 8,000 a year to 40,000 a year. So as far as some of the other attendance numbers, I can get back to you with them, but I don't remember them off the top of my head. When we look at it just anecdotally, not in comparison to other institutions, and we think about the prospect of, you take what we are today, but you expand what we have to offer people that makes it more worth your while to drive 45 minutes or an hour to come spend an afternoon here. And you make the museum more easily accessible on Main Street, right on Main Street. And you have the attraction of the water and the opportunity to get out there and look at that waterfall and hang out and eat at a cafe on the deck there. And you have the space, the only space in the world where, in addition to whatever else we're exhibiting, you can come see Wolf Kahn and Emily Mason's work. That factors into our thinking about what we can expect in terms of attendance increase as well. It's a little bit of a crystal ball, but yeah, thanks for the question. Other questions? Yeah, Phil.
Well, I have to ask, naturally, how are you doing in your fundraising?
Yeah, thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
So this is a $30 million project, and the funding model for the project is really an innovative one. It's not just the museum doing a $30 million capital campaign, thankfully. It's the museum raising $12 million and a housing ownership group that will eventually own the upper story housing. The concept for this project is that once it's all built and done, the museum owns the street level floor and below, and the upper floors, which contain the apartments, are owned by a housing ownership group. So in terms of funding the project, we're doing a capital campaign where we need to raise $12 million toward construction. And the housing ownership group will end up bringing $10 to $12 million to the table in investment, and that'll be financed over time, some portion of it. And we're anticipating drawing upon $6 to $8 million in federal and state tax credits and grants of various types, including, for example, CDBG, which was discussed earlier, new market tax credits, we hope. And so to the housing investment piece of this and the federal and state subsidies and incentives, Bob can best speak to that. As to the museum's fundraising and where we are, so we're raising $12 million toward the project itself, but we're also raising $3 million to add to our endowment, because when we can pull this off and we have this much bigger museum with much higher annual operating expenses and a much larger staff and more spaces to heat and so on, we need to be funding our annual operations to a more significant degree by drawing upon an endowment. Art museums across the country, on average, draw 21% of their annual operating funds from endowment. We draw like 1.2% currently. So our fundraising goal is $12 million toward construction and $3 million toward endowment, or a capital campaign of $15 million. And we've only just gotten started, but we have raised $2.5 million so far. You know, that is earnest money. And we've invested a significant amount in the project already, having purchased the properties and hired the architects to do conceptual design. And so that's where we are. We expect to continue our, capital campaigns typically have a quiet phase and then a public phase. And so we're in the quiet phase. And yeah, theoretically, nominally the quiet phase, which doesn't often include a press conference. But we're in the quiet phase of our fundraising, meaning we're continuing to have one-on-one quiet conversations with the people who we think will have the capacity and the inclination to support this project at a very high level. And we're going to be continuing those conversations through the spring and expect to know where we stand and to be able to report that we've been completely successful in our fundraising by next summer. Does that answer your question, Phil?
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Yeah, Lynn.
Can Bob talk a little bit more about the housing? How it's going to work?
Sure, happy to. So what can I tell you about the housing? They're really nice units. There's the building that sits over the Whetstone and looks somewhat southeast all the way right down the Connecticut River, and so there's beautiful views out of it. And there's a combination of housing units is what we're anticipating, a combination of sizes. One's 2 bedrooms, some large 2 bedrooms, a combination of income opportunities, some amenities. There's a common room with some fitness space. There's the rooftop terrace, we'll call it, that Danny was talking about. There's some outside space that is sort of segregated, and we expect to share that with the museum. The museum can have events, the residents will have a space to get outside. And we also expect on this project, unlike perhaps the Brooks House, that some of these will be owner-occupied eventually, that they'll be condominiums. So, as I say, a wide range of product types. And I will say that we're also probably looking for folks to make a list, just like Danny with his fundraising, to find out if there's folks that are interested in renting these or owning them long-term. We'd like to have those conversations in the next 6 months as well. I just anecdotally, again, and in terms of the need for all types of housing, at the Brooks House we have 23 units there. Our waiting list exceeds 40 people for those 23 units. So there is a large pent-up demand for all types of housing in this town, and I think those are great contributors to the community, and they spend money and they participate civically, so we'd like to provide more of that if we can figure out how to do it.
Thank you, Bob. Am I right in thinking that the current concept for the apartments includes some number of units that would be specifically designed as like artist housing? That's right. With certain amenities for artists? We have time for maybe 1 or 2 more questions, and then lunch for anyone who would like to join us. Tim.
This is my first look at the plan, so I'm pretty excited about it. I'd love to, one of the most exciting things for me in looking at this is the engagement with the brook, not only the brook, but the river itself. Because, historically, this town has turned its back on the river since we didn't treat it quite as well as we do now. So I just want to put a little plug in. I know their initial plans, but to be able to wrap around that walkway a little bit, so you see a little bit more of the eastern, northerly views.
Cool.
Just a little suggestion, because that engagement with water, both small water and the large water of the Connecticut, would be wonderful for the public.
I think that's a great idea. And fortunately, we have our architect sitting right here, so they're taking notes. And I just want to mention, Tim, piggybacking on that, if this all proceeds on the schedule that we hope it will and that we're planning for, then this project will come online almost at the exact same time that the bridge to Hinsdale becomes pedestrian bike only and is replaced with a new bridge slightly downriver, at which point I think we're all anticipating that this becomes a fantastic hub of water-based and riverfront recreation here. And if you're strolling down Main Street at that point, on your way to the now pedestrian bike only bridge over the river, you'll be able to make your way down the terraces alongside our building and cross the footbridge over the brook and end up right down there by the entrance to the Hinsdale Bridge. And so I think there's, we're really tremendously excited about the potential for reconnecting with the water, not only the direct ways in which our project is doing it, but in the ways in which it's going to have synergy with the bridge replacement project as well. One more question? Well, I can't thank you all enough for being here, and especially thank you to our speakers. Having your support means so much to us. I really can't thank you enough, and especially those of you who came down through the weather. So thank you, Becca, and Josh, and Peter, and Ryan. Thanks all of you for being here. Stay tuned, get in touch with your ideas and your questions. And in the immediate future, please feel free to join us for lunch.